Hello everyone and welcome to week 2 for 277. Well, you guys will be doing the reading for week 2. Unfortunately, this class, just to explain, doesn't have any meeting time. It's just mostly like short videos and reading materials. It's a lot of work, to be honest. It's very easy, by the way. So like maybe I mentioned that before, I'm not sure, maybe for some students. If you're smart and hard worker, the 95 to 100, like it's easy to score. I don't have any problem giving students 100. All of you guys getting 100, if you deserve it, I'm okay with that. It's a lot of work. That's mainly what's this course about. Yeah, this is the lecture 2. The first slides about HTML5. Just to go roughly through the slides. It's talking about HTML, what's HTML, markup language. We have its combination or structure of elements. Elements, you see, like you go to HTML page, it has elements here. The first element is HTML, and we close it here. With this element, we have sub-elements. In HTML, we have two sub-elements, the head and the body. The head, where we have the information about the web page, linking with CSS, external CSS, having CSS rules will be here if there is internal. And also we can link to JavaScript. Yeah, we can have some meta information, etc. So the head for information, the body is for the actual content. So we have forms, we have inputs, input elements, text element, file element, etc. All will be in the content, the text, the images, all the content will be in the head. The HTML syntax, you guys may read it. We have two tags. We open the tag and then we close it. Where's some example here? In this example, we have h1 element. We open it here and we write what is HTML and then we close it. h1, sorry, is a head one. It's kind of, you can use it for titles. So maybe the main title will have h1. If you have subtitle, maybe you will have h2. So will be combination of those different elements. Now let's go back. Yeah, we have void elements. Normal elements, we have opening and then the closing of the element. But sometimes we don't need to open it and close it, like break line. Break line in HTML, if you wanna, like break line, it's like enter. When you text, you press enter. In HTML, to have enter, then you need to say BR. So BR, for enter, you just click enter. You don't need to close it. Unlike H1. H1, you wanna say only this text have header 1. Have that bolded sized H1 text. Syntax also, let's talk about the elements. Here, the elements always follow the open tag of the HTML. Elements has properties. Properties, we call them attributes. Those attributes will always comes inside the opening close. So element h1 has ID attribute with main title. Here, the attribute has attribute name, which is ID, and then attribute value. The one before equal is the attribute name. The one after equal is the attribute value. So the ID for this guy is main title. Yeah, you guys need to go through it and read it very well. we talked about the structure. Here, structural view of the HTML. We have the head, we have the body. We know we need HTML is the standard language, markup language. If you open it, it's something like this, right? If you open it as a text. However, the browser can interpret, can convert it into a web content. For example, just here roughly, I was opening Toys for Us, wanted to buy some toys for my kids. There's a clearance. This is the web content. After browsing it, we see it as a browse. But how it was coded as HTML. To see the actual code, you go to view source page, and then you see here, this is the HTML, this is the head. Again, the HTML is the parent of the head. Head is the parent of these guys. Here is the link. We're linking with external CSS, as you're gonna see later. Or here, just metas. You may have JavaScript here, internal JavaScript, or you may also link to external JavaScript as well. Of course, these guys, they have very advanced websites. We will get there at the end of the class. We'll get there where we have a combination of internal and external JavaScript and CSS. Now I think the body should start somewhere here. Yeah, let me just find the body. Yeah, here if you see the body element has this attribute, has a class attribute. Uh, yeah, so just I want to differentiate between the element and the attribute. Inside the body, again, the body is a sub folder, or sorry, a sub element of HTML. Or you can say HTML is the parent element, the body is a child. Any element here is the child of body. So this division is a child of this body. Here I have SVG. Any element is the direct son of div, and of course the grandparent of this element is body. So it's a structural. This is the uh, let's say the dad, or let's say the grandfather or the grandparent. Here is the parent, and here is the child, etc. You can have as many layers as you want. It's not just the 3 layers. There is no restriction on the number of sub content or sub elements. Yeah. Yeah, here we have different elements. That's how the code looks like. Maybe just you would like to start working, right? Trying things. You may log into File Manager. We created Control F com 277. Oh no, sorry guys. You need to watch my videos before coming here, because I showed you there how to do the structure, or our files will be here in 270 com 277, which is inside the public HTML folder. So mainly I clicked in public HTML folder to come to this subfolder. Maybe I usually ask my students to create new folder, and name it examples, so you may use it for trainings or trying things. I will go inside the example. Maybe I will create a new file, a new HTML file. I would call it lecture, maybe lecture1.html, and create. You may try some different. Oh, it's not a folder. I have to delete it. Yeah, I need to create a new file. Create a file, and I should name it lecture1.html. Create. And once you create it, you just may come and edit it here, edit file. Yeah. So you may try whatever you want here. Of course, we start with HTML. That's the parent. We have a head with maybe title, lecture 1, right? We have a body, and you may start having the body content, header 1 or heading 1. Maybe it's main header or heading. It's just like, you start creating your own content. Maybe, yeah, maybe then you'll have a text. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. And let's try it. We save it first. And again, to extract the link, how the outsiders see your link, you copy the link from here, from your username. In my case, username is ALKH. That's my user id.myweb.csu user. Copy it from there. Don't forget to remove public HTML. Why? Because public HTML is the equivalent of my domain. So this guy is the virtual name of public HTML. And here you go. This link you can copy it, send it to your family member. You can anybody can submit it as well for assignment. That's how I need the links. And if you look here, you'll be seeing that this is the main heading we wrote. It's the main heading, and this is the text where hello everyone. Maybe you need to create a paragraph, etc. The title is supposed to be some browsers. They show it here somewhere. So let me open. Yes, if you look at the title here, it is Lecture 1. If you remember, in the header, where it is, yeah, in the head, not the head, be careful. Header is something else. We'll talk about it at the end of the class, or you'll see it on the end of the class. In the head, I say Lecture 1, and that's what you see at the top of the tab here. That's the head, yeah. That's the title of inside the head, title of the head, yeah. So you may continue. Whatever we've done so far is all about the content. If you see, it's just a dry content, plain. There is no visual attributes, no colors, no different layers of visualization, etc. To add this layer, we need CSS, Cascade Style Sheets. Cascade Style Sheets will enhance the presentations. It's all about presentation here, presentation properties. We separate them from the HTML layer. You may ask why. It's actually, if you see, if for University of Windsor, I believe we have thousands of pages for different faculties, different faculty members, different maybe sub-organizations like the libraries, the clubs, etc. We all, like all these pages, have similar theming or branding, we call it. My students from business, they may know that, we call it branding. What it means like while you serve that organization, you switch between different pages, you still feel I'm in the same organization. Like Facebook, when you serve the home, it's dark blue with white. When you go to the feed, it's similar. You feel, oh, I'm still in Facebook. It's not like now it's for the home, it's a dark blue, and then we move to the feed, it's yellow. No, it still reflects the same organization, theme, or branding. So what we do, we separate. If you look here at the middle, where's the cursor, this is CSS. We separate it from the web content. So we have the HTML files, just plain content, and we have CSS files, right? Those CSS files, they can connect to all all HTML files for our organization. For example, I would say uh, let's have the dark blue for all web pages, and then if if Facebook decide to have the color to be yellow, I just change the color in the CSS, and that will reflect to all web pages of Facebook. So I'm centralizing the presentation layer. So I just have it in some place and connect all the HTML files to it. So in the future, if I need to change something, I just change it in the external style sheeting. So you can reuse it. That's what I meant. So there's different ways of adding the CSS rules. You may add it internally. We call it internally. So you define it inside a style tag in the head. Usually in the head. Sometimes people they put it in the body, but I prefer. I'm from this school where we believe that the style should be in the head. So you open the style here, you close it, and you define the CSS, which is the presentation properties here. So I'm saying for the body, any body content, it has to have the font family Arial. So by default, any text you enter, it will have the font Arial. We have a chapter for fonts later on. You'll see like we can choose different font. We can choose the backup fonts, if font family, if Arial is not there, for example, etc. For H1, I would say add border at the bottom with solid line with 1 pixel. For paragraphs, margin at the left, 30 pixels. Just add margin. Just margin is like, we talk about it, like the course will show you later on in the text how to create the margins, padding, etc. If you look now, we enhanced this page. If you look here, we added this. We changed the color, the font for the text, and we added the line, etc. Let me just look at the, like, just for comparison, showing you guys, this is how it was before the style sheeting, and here is after the style sheeting. What we did, we just enhanced the visual attributes using CSS rules. Any rule, as you see, it starts with the element, then we change the rules here. Talk about it in a sec, show you guys. For example, what this rule means, it means for the element body, for the element P paragraph, right? For any paragraph, change the color to be blue. So we'll have the color blue. So that's how we change. This is how we use the CSS rules. Please read it very well. The videos is not a replacement of your reading. Organizing information with hypertext. Hypertext, you see, like we have active text, where sometimes you have a text, say, click here. When you click it, it takes you to other pages. So it's kind of, you can link different pages together using some hypertext or some links. We'll start talking here about history of HTML. In exam, I'm not gonna ask you to tell me about the history. Well, it just is nice to know where it started in Europe and CERN laboratory, like the physician laboratory, European physician laboratory. Bernard Lee was the intern there. Um, yes, what else? You may read it very well. And there was a need to have a standard because at the time, different scientists they shared their documents. Each one of them has his own style. Then there was a need to have a protocol where they can share protocol that they can share the document. That's what we know now as internet. The internet was founded on the mid of 90s, where start people start sharing the first www call it network was between those scientists in order to be able to share. But there's another need. We need to standardize the shared document. So that's why Bernard-Lee created the HTML. There's another standard, we call it XML. It's very important to have your content uh, like XML compatible. Why? Because we can share it. There's XML and JSON. There's two kind of documents can be shareable as a data, so people they can process your HTML or you can share it with the other. So it's very nice to have it uh, XML compatible. XML stands for Extendable Markup Language. Extendable is means shareable. I can extend it to you and vice versa. Why we use the XML? Sometimes, you know, say the American border, they would like to share information with the Canadian border. In this case, as a Canadian, we would like to share some certain information, but any country would not like to share, or any organization will not share with you the backend, the security. I'm not going to share it with you my database, but I can share with you files that can contain the required information, what information you need. A well-known example is the Visa card or MasterCards, credit cards. You have XML content. This XML content will share actually the information of the buyer, the credit card number, etc. So to make it shareable files, we need to use XML standard. XML rules to make your HTML or any coding, not just XML, any kind of data, XML compatible, we have some certain rules. I'm going to ask you in the exam, so please study these rules. You're going to do it for assignment 1 and in the exams, both midterm, believe me, usually in the midterm and the final, I would ask about the XML rules. What these rules? Here they are, the rules. Document must be well formed. All tags well formed is something like this. You have the opening, the very parent, and here is the closing at the end. Here and you have the sub content. We know where is the opening and the ending. All tags must be nested properly. For example, if here this is just like pseudo elements. This element has sub element line. You open the line, you need to close the line before closing the stanza. So you need to close the sub element before closing the parent element. all must be lowercase, all elements. If you look here, all the elements here is lowercase, cannot be for any tab like line or line like that. No, it has to be lowercase. You always need the closing. So if this guy is missing, you ask in the exam, fix this XML, then you say, oh, it doesn't have the closing line. Or maybe in the exam, I will close this guy, this line, after closing this guy. You say, no, you should close the very opening one. What's the very opening one up to here? Is the line. I should close this line before closing the sentence. Again, going back to rule number 2. That's when listed properly. If you have a void or empty, you need to, it doesn't have anything, then you can just say it's BR and that's it. If it's empty or void, then you need to include, you cannot leave it as this. From HTML side, this tag is working, it's breaking line. But to be compatible with XML, then you need to add the this guy at the end of it. If you have attributes, for example, for this line, I would like to have a class or ID equals ID1, for example. So this is the property name or attribute name, and this is property value. From HTML side, this one is working fine, but you need to be XML compatible. You need to have the opening and closing. These slides here, they show you some example of wrong or violation to XML rules. For example, this guy is not small letter H, should be small letter. Here, attribute is not contained in quotations, it's not coded. This P, we open it here, but we never close it, so you need to say /P. Here, when we close body is not the direct open one, so it's not well nested. So we need to close P before closing the body. You may argue, say H1. Yeah, H1 is closed here. So what's still open? Body is open. H1, we close H1, done. B is open and we close body. That violates XML rules. It's not nested well because we open P. I should close P, the very direct element, before closing body. So if I tell you to fix it, you just say /P. You should close the P before closing the body. What other example? Yeah, here are the fix. So what we did here, we made this one small letter, we close P, and for these guys we just add the quoted or the quotations. Yeah, so choosing the correct syntax, it just here tells you to follow the XML rules, and there's so many benefits of that. Let's talk about the benefits. Yeah, I think there's a slide talk about the benefits that can be shareable. You can share it with some other organization or entities. Yeah, it's nice to follow the standards, to be honest. Yeah, you may read through here. Correct document type. In order to tell the browser I have HTML, or in this case HTML5 content, then at the beginning you say doc type HTML. Don't just say HTML. It's better to have it as doc type HTML. It's just telling the browser I'm opening a standard document type of HTML. Otherwise, the browser will guess it, but it might not work well with some items. Multipurpose internet mail extension mem type. We usually have a meta element to define the MIME types, in which we tell them about the character set, about the content type. Here, say text, HTML. Sometimes if you have media, you can say it's a media. Yeah, here just is telling you that this meta is like for mem type, meta HTTP equivalent content type. Just telling the content type here is the content we have HTML with this set of character. Yeah, actually the whole thing, the content here is one attribute. Yeah, we're just telling you again to follow the XML strictly to have a better syntax. Different in HTML5, the authors they reduce the number of codes, attributes. They try to simplify it as much as they could, and they created a generic division. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So they assume that this is your web page. They call this side is a header. So you say div ID header, by default it will contain this area. And they created this pseudo area, they call it nav, navigation or nav. So if you say div ID equals nav, HTML5 by default will assume it's this area. You know, like our blackboard, right? If you look at the blackboard, say this is the, yeah, as blackboard, we have the header here at the top. We can secure this area by saying div ID equals header. Maybe you can give it a brown color, or you can do that using CSS. Here, this area is the nav. This is the article. I don't think they have sidebar. Maybe in sidebar, I think we can find it in Twitter. Yeah, look at Twitter. We have the sidebar in this area, the right area of the screen. Yeah, they don't have, usually in social media, they don't have footer. They have something called pagination. Pagination means based on some criteria, they go back to the backend and bring more feeds, more news, more information. The more you scroll down, you see now it starts this circle. I'll show you quickly. Here, this circle, I mean, it's thinking, going back to the backend, bringing more information and bringing it down there. The criteria I was talking about is based on here, whatever you choose. For example, I'm just clicking, searching Ontario. If I say the top, the criteria will bring the most important news at the top and the least important at the bottom. Latest, usually they go here, they will bring at the top the most recent. The more you scroll down will be older. Use here 15 seconds. If you go down a little bit, it will be like this guy submitted or posted this tweet or retweeted 1 minute ago. If you scroll down, it will be maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes, etc. That's for Twitter. If you would like to look at the footer, proper footer, you may find it for organizations such as uWindsor. Usually they have at the bottom this area, division footer. Of course, you can fix the height and width. of it, give it some certain color. Yeah, whenever you scroll here on different versions, here they call this guy is a hamburger or burger menu. While you scrolling, that's what I meant by branding or theme. Wherever you go, you still feel, oh, this is the same organization. I didn't change the organization. That's why we call it the look and feel. I talked about it earlier. All right, if you go back to the main page, we had something we might implement it. Here, this guy we call the story line. Whenever you click, it will change the image. That's easy. I might train you guys on how to implement this element. Yeah, yeah. Before ending today's video, just want you guys to look at the other slides talking about the planning, how to site planning. Start gathering the information about your website. Before designing your website, you need to first understand the objectives, first the requirements, what you need to achieve by implementing your website. Who are your audience? How the scenarios will go. For example, it's an e-commerce, something like Amazon. There is a buyer, look at the item. After looking at the item, clicking on those items, maybe these items, they will go to the cart, and then you need to check out, pay, and then your purchase will be done. So this is just like web development process. You may look at it and read about it deeper. Specification, requirements first, and then you define the specification. The requirements is like what the list of needs by the customer. Your customer can be, if you're a freelancer, people they will hire you to upload or sorry to implement a website for them. Or you may be working in a company where you are a web developer, so you're creating a website to maybe to HR. Customers can vary, but still you need to understand their requirements, not how you think that it should be implemented. The requirements usually from the users. So it's a list of needs. Then you define the specifications. After understanding the requirements, then you say, okay, the specification of this website is we need a website that employee can go and check their payrolls, maybe can apply for a leave, etc. After understanding the requirements. Yeah, then you categorize the website. Like you say, okay, those guys, they will go maybe to the sidebar. These guys, they will go to the header, etc. And then you start creating what we call to wireframe. If I ask you in assignments on project proposal to create wireframes, you may sketch it on paper using pencil or pen. There is another website tools. You can use Paint, of course. You just go Paint by Windows. Maybe you can use PowerPoint, whatever you're comfortable with. There is a tool called Pencil. But it's not necessarily to use pencil. You may just sketch it. If you use Word or PowerPoint, it might look like this. Doesn't matter. But you need to create your own wireframe. It's like when you build a bridge or a house, usually you design it, then you build it. You don't start building it and then you say, oh, do you like the design? And then the buyer will say, oh, I don't like this house. Then you redesign it again. No, we need to do the designing part after collecting the information, requirements, and define the specifications. Yeah, you guys need to read through this I believe you need to take 1 or 2 hours. For example, here talking about the audience, you need to understand who are your audience. Very important, by the way. Like if my audience, they live like in the city where they have a powerful internet, then you don't mind putting maybe more multimedia's heavy content on your website. But maybe if your audience, they live like in maybe countryside where the internet is less than the the cities, right? Sometimes you need to consider. Nowadays, I believe that this issue is solved, but back in time, it was a headache. Really, like to the go to the outside of the city, the internet is really slow. Nowadays, I believe this issue is solved, but still, is you need to understand also your audience to design for them, not only just the technology side. Okay, these people they will love to have a simple design. I'm targeting people they have students, they have fancy stuff, etc. Yeah, you please may go through it. There's some analytics website, etc. Take an hour or two. Just I want to comment on file naming files. We have several operating systems. So your server might be Windows, mine is Linux. These operating systems here, they have different rules. So, for example, in Windows 8 and Windows 7, you cannot create a file with slash in it. Try, save, go to desktop, right click, create a new file, try to add slash in it, it will not take it. Some operating system, they're case sensitive. So cat, C capital is not like cat with C small letter. To avoid all of that, if I ask in the project proposal how you gonna name your files, you may mention your own protocol, something like I will choose not to have a special characters, just alpha numeric. It means cat 1, cat 200, apple 10. Just try to say that I'll use alphanumeric with all small letters. Why small letters? If all your files small letters will be working on Windows with uh, so you don't have that confusion whether it's small letter, big or capital letter. So maybe it's just nicer to have it a capital letter. Usually some operating system they don't take spaces. I know Windows it takes, but some others they don't. So you say I'm going to avoid spaces on the file names. So for example, you'd like to create a file called university space Windsor. You may use university underscore Windsor. Yeah, I believe in assignment 2 or 3, I'll be asking about these slides here. Yeah, you may guys look at this is the domain. As I told you before, in your domain, it will be your username dot u1 u dot u myweb dot u1zar dot cs dot ca. That's your domain, and then comp 277. That's the folder. That's the path. Maybe slash assignment 1, and then we have assignment1.html. I believe after reading this document here, sorry, this is how to create a hyperlink. A hyperlink where you have the blue colors for that text. When you click it, it's actionable, or takes you to another document. We talked about it as a markup. That's why we call it markup language, because we have those active links. This is how you create a link. If you try it, maybe you may try it on my web and see how you create a hyperlink. Yeah, please read it very well. Let's talk about the assignment again. Assignment 1, you may start working on it. I know I set the due date for May 30, I think, yeah, the end of the month, or 30, I'm not sure. I will extend it a little bit. Usually I just set it earlier, so I put the small pressure on you guys to start working on it. So yes, assignment 1 is posted, and please start working on it after reading the material for class 2. I believe you might need class 3 as well, part of the material. So that's why the end part of it. So I believe that you guys need to start working on assignment 1 as soon as possible. Leave the part from lecture 2, from lecture 3 for next week. Maybe it will take you half an hour to do that part. It has a big portion of your final mark. I believe it might have up to 5%. So please start working on assignment 1 after reading the material of lecture 2. I'll see you maybe next week. I'll just keep posting small videos. Sometimes it's not required. It's just like reading material. That's the content of the, this is how this class was designed. Again, it's a lot of work, but it's fun. Thank you again, and see you later.